Can we drop the racist name calling? I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. Did you hear about the Conservatives calling Liberals racist? That is so funny. I mean, everyone knows it's the Conservatives that are the racist ones, right? Am I right? This came up in the House of Commons after Liberal MP John McCallum accused the Harper government of racism. Why? Because in an interview with Vice Canada, where he was talking about the decision to require face veils such as niqabs to be removed during citizenship ceremonies, Immigration Minister Chris Alexander began listing off other changes the Conservatives have made to Canada's immigration laws. And one of the things he said was that Canadians don't want their co-citizens to be terrorists.
We've done a lot in the past year or two to strengthen the value of Canadian citizenship. People take pride in that. They don't want their co-citizens to be terrorists. They don't want people to become citizens who haven't respected the rules.
Of course, he's clearly talking about moves to revoke citizenship from terrorists. But McCallum claims he was saying anyone in a niqab is a terrorist. Here's part of their exchange, and listen to Alexander's response.
It's obvious from the minister's previous statement that he equates terrorism with niqabs. When only Muslims face a rise in hate crimes, it's obvious this government's toxic anti-Muslim rhetoric is a part of the problem. As when he talks about plotting terrorist plots in mosques, this is the only Prime Minister in my lifetime who seeks to attack a whole community for political gain. Will he at least apologize to Muslim Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, those are the most outrageous untruths I have yet to hear in this place, Mr. Speaker. This is the only party in this Parliament that is taking action to protect Muslims and other Canadians from the threat of terrorism. Mr. Speaker, I would invite that member to apologize for decades of racism by his party under Mackenzie King, blocking South Asians from coming to this country, blocking East Asians from coming to this country, blocking Caribbeans from coming to this country, the injustice of backlogs under the Trudeau regime, in the Chrétien era, Mr. Speaker. It is that party that has been the racist party in this Parliament over decades.
That claim that Liberals have a racist past has some people fuming, but let's look at the claims. Were South Asians blocked from coming to Canada? Essentially, in 1885, under Conservative Prime Minister Sir John A. Macdonald, the Government of Canada imposed a $50 head tax on each Chinese immigrant. In 1900, under Liberal Prime Minister Sir Wilfrid Laurier, the head tax was boosted to $100, and in 1903, still under Laurier, it became $500, a huge amount of money at that time. In 1923, under Liberal Prime Minister William Lyon Mackenzie King, the Chinese Immigration Act of 1923 essentially banned Chinese immigration. And it wasn't just the Chinese that were excluded. East Indians were effectively excluded under Laurier as well. A 1908 order in council saying that immigrants needed to, quote, come from the country of their birth or citizenship by continuous journey and or through tickets purchased before leaving their country of their birth or nationality. See, ships from India back then had to stop off somewhere else. They couldn't make the long journey, so they were disqualified. All right, so we got the Liberals blocking Chinese and Indian immigrants from coming to Canada. What else is there? In 1910, under Laurier, a policy of trying to stop black immigrants was started. Black families that were interested in the free farmland being offered in the West, well, they were actively discouraged by the Laurier government. They even employed people to warn off would-be black settlers from the U.S. Midwest. So we've got Liberals blocking Chinese, Indians, black immigrants, and they weren't too fond of the Japanese either. And did you know that the Japanese internment camps in World War II, in fact, all of the internment camps of that era were under Liberal Prime Minister Mackenzie King? This is also the Prime Minister, the Liberal Prime Minister, whose feeling towards accepting Jewish refugees fleeing Hitler's Germany in 1939 was, none is too many. What's the Liberal record like elsewhere? It's not stellar. It was the Liberal government of Alexander Mackenzie that passed the Indian Act and started the residential schools in 1876. Liberals also sustained the policy for decades because for most of the time between 1876 and when the last school closed in 1996, Liberals were the ones in power. I could get you more examples, but you're getting the point. And some of you could say, well, the Conservatives did plenty as well. And that's true. And we could also point out that the NDP, which has never held power federally, well, they had a eugenicist who believed that only those deemed fit should be allowed to breed. He was their first leader, Tommy Douglas. Ideas about race and ethnicity and all of this, they've changed greatly. The whole country has changed greatly. But consistently calling Conservatives racist or anti-immigrant and alluding to a past that does not exist or one where the sins of the past were actually carried out by Liberals simply isn't fair. To this day, opposition politicians will claim that the Conservatives are anti-immigrant and the media will let them get away with it. Immigration numbers are at modern highs, and you cannot point to the 400,000 that Laurier let in more than a century ago if you're not also going to look at his racist policies. And by the way, it was Conservative Prime Minister Diefenbaker in 1962 that took race and country of origin out of the point system for prospective immigrants. And after Jean Chrétien imposed what was essentially a head tax, a nearly $1,000 landing fee on every new immigrant, it was Conservative Stephen Harper that removed it. Dief also gave Aboriginals the vote. It was Stephen Harper that extended property rights and matrimonial rights onto reserve so that women on reserve have the same protections as every other woman in Canada. Calling someone racist, especially when there is no proof, is a vile thing. We should all think twice about doing it. Regardless of party, regardless of our feelings towards each other, we should just think twice about using that label. And John McCallum, well, he should look at his own party's past before he starts making sick claims against the Conservatives, claims that aren't based in reality.